Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Mariah and Steph. Steph, happy Thursday. How you doing?
Happy Thursday. I am great. Another week, another bird to kill, right?
Yep. Another week, another win. Feeling good, if you're a faithful, at least. What's up, chat? Hope everybody's doing great. Please make sure you listen to my moderator here. Dawn says, please don't forget to debo the like button and subscribe to both channels. If you're tuning in on my channel or on Steph's channel only, please make sure you subscribe to the other one's channel. We would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, hope everybody's doing great today. Those that obviously know, Sunday was my birthday, so I woke up feeling kind of sick to my stomach. I'm like, man, 49ers, don't let me down, because like I'm already weird with my birthdays. Like, it's like I already just go into it just expecting it to be bad, because I've just had so many bad birthdays that, like, I don't like to get my hopes up anymore, so already going into it, I'm like, come on, I want to have a good birthday today. Like, don't let me down. Whew. Let me tell you, before we get into it, those first two drives of the game for the 49ers offense.
You were throwing furniture?
Yeah. I'm like, man, this is the type of birthday y'all want me to have right here, huh? But thankfully, we know how it turned out. The 49ers ended up beating the living bird brains out of them. How good did it feel, Steph? Let me know. How you feeling?
I mean, it felt great, right? And having it happen, like the Seattle Thanksgiving win along with this back-to-back, was just the greatest 2-week span I think you can ask for as a 49ers fan. It was the little redemption tour I think they were kind of waiting for a long time. And I know a lot of the players were thinking and saying, out loud that this game was just any other game. They're going to say all that stuff. But clearly, I think when they rolled through in the all black, we knew that this has been on their mind, for a minute. And the way that they executed the game plan and played their butts off, I think it was obvious that it meant a little something more to them. So I'm just glad that they got to show that, in front of, I'm bummed that it wasn't a nationally televised game, but I'm pretty sure that mostly everyone was watching. And so people got to see what this team was about and why they talked the way that they did all offseason.
Yeah, I love that, because everybody that I know and talk to that, are just football fans or fans of another team, they were all tuned into this game. They were all looking forward to this game, just like if they were an Eagles fan or a 49ers fan, So like this, even though it wasn't nationally televised, like this game had all eyes on it. And, the 49ers players, they can say, oh, it's just another game, but even you caught, there's videos circulating now of the Eagles fan or the Eagles players saying, I've circled this game since the game, the schedule came out. I've been waiting for this game. We've all been waiting for this game. And I think that's true. Like, people know, even if, like I said, even if you're not a fan of the two teams, people know what happened last year in the playoffs. They know that this has been a building up thing since then. They know everything that's been said, that's been in the media, that, the media made a huge deal out of this game. And yeah, it just felt so damn good for them to go in there and handle business. For them to show, for our stars to show up to that game wearing all black, not even having planned it out.
Right.
Like, that is crazy. Like the first one that I heard say that, like, oh, I think it was Debo. Oh, it wasn't even a planned out thing. Like, I didn't talk to them about what I was wearing or anything. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, there's no way, right? Like, there's no way 10 of you guys can show up to the game all wearing the same exact thing, and then you didn't plan it out. And then as it went down the line, like, and you start hearing from the rest of the players, they're like, yeah, I didn't talk to them. Like, this wasn't a planned out thing. So that just shows you right there the type of mindset that they had going into this game. You're going to wear all black going to a game in Philly where we know is hostile, is crazy. The fans are nuts. We talked about it, right? The players are just as crazy. That's why they fit in there. The coaches, obviously. But for you to go to that game wearing all black, showing up to the team's funeral at their own stadium, you know, for Debo to have on black Air Forces when he's freaking doing his pregame routine, like, man, when I seen that, I'm like, all right, Debo, he's, you know, there's no way that you can talk the shit that he talked, show up dressed how he dressed, wearing those shoes, and then go lay an egg on the freaking field. So I knew no matter what happened, Debo Samuel was going to bring it. And boy, did he.
Yeah. And that's why everyone was like, yo, Debo stood on business because he did all the talking, but he backed it up too. And that's just the kind of player that Debo is. It's not the first time that we've seen it from him. And I think just like, not just with Debo, but I think for all of the players, like it became personal, you know. And I think like last week you had asked me if this was on the level of being a rivalry, right? I feel like seeing how the 49ers approached this game, like they kind of certainly felt like it. And I think even the outcome of the game and how the game transpired, like the Eagles now want to get back at the 49ers. And so that's how rivalries start, right? That's how it happens. So I think officially we could probably call this a rivalry. But we'll see if these two teams will play again in the playoffs.
Yeah, let me get your thoughts on the whole I call them dumb dom situation, the Greenlaw and their security dom situation. What were your whole thoughts of that? Because like when it first was going on, you know, like I said, it was my birthday, so we had been out and you know we went out to eat and stuff. So I'm having to like watch on my phone as I'm like getting in and out, you know, like I didn't have my earbuds. And like that's all happening like during that time. And I'm like, what the hell? Excuse me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know, like I couldn't even tell like who Debo was fighting with at first. Like I thought he was fighting with a player, and that guy, like, that Greenlaw, sorry. And that guy had just got in the middle of it, you know, like when accidentally got hit. Like that's what I was thinking. And I'm like, no, like Greenlaw and him, like, we're like, why is this guy even down there? Like they're interacting with the players to begin with, you know, like he's over there where the coaches are supposed to be, you know, and then they throw Greenlaw out and throw him out. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't hurt the Eagles, not one single bit, him getting thrown out of the freaking game, right? Like, you know, like I was so pissed that Greenlaw had got thrown out of the game because like I feel like it's close to like a Draymond Green thing now. Like, no matter what Greenlaw does, like he has the eye on him, and every little thing, it's like he could be doing it right, but even if it's on the very edge, you know, they're going to take it the other way just because of past incidents and past things like of how they think he plays or how they think he is, you know? And it's just like such bullshit at this point. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that for a while now, like Dre Greenlaw has been getting those reputation calls because he has a reputation. The refs know what that reputation is, and they are probably asked by the league or whatever. There's a common understanding. We got to look out for this guy. If he does anything, like we got to lay down the law real quick. Because at the same time, like from the ref standpoint, you can't let games like these, especially with a lot of tension on both sides, to get out of control. So you do have to, you know, I understand the refs calling the penalty for the way in which he tackled Devontae Smith. Probably, you know, obviously was a little unnecessary on his part to use as much force as it looked like he did. But obviously, also in the same token, Dom had no business being anywhere close to an opposing team's player, you know? and being on the sideline. For one, his job is supposed to, as head of security, is supposed to be to protect the Eagles from fans. The fans are on like the other side, buddy. You got to be looking the other way. And so I think it just, to me, it showed a level of unprofessionalism from Dom to clearly the game is distracting him from being able to do his job because you're not supposed to be involved in it at all. That's an issue in itself. That's not like the 49ers problem. Like, Eagles, you handle that because clearly this man who's the head of your security not doing his job. I know, and this whole thing of like, oh, but he's beloved, like everyone loves him. That doesn't matter. Like, he's not supposed to be up in the mix like that. So that's the reason he got ejected. But yeah, it pissed me off too because it's like, okay, great. Like that doesn't hurt you guys. If anything, it pumped up the Eagles crowd even more and pissed off the players even more. But at the end of the day, you know what, Miriah? It didn't even matter. It did not even matter. And that's what was so sweet about it in the end because I was pissed. But when I saw Deebo Samuel shortly after, hit that touchdown that he took to the house, that I got up off the couch and I was a fan I'm always a fan, but you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I just watch the game more of like from an analytical standpoint, or I'd be writing my notes and I'm kind of like surveying everything I see. But there's certain moments where you just gotta like get up and you lose control a little bit of yourself. So that was one of those moments, and I got excited. And the 49ers never looked back from that point on.
Yeah, I think that's what made it worse is that, after Greenlaw gets kicked out, that the Eagles go down and score right, shortly after that on that same drive. And I think at that point it made it a 1-score game, if I can remember correctly. So it could have easily swayed, back to the Eagles' direction, especially, we didn't know, like with Greenlaw being out, who was going to step up. Are they going to attack that spot, like what was going to happen at that point? But yeah, like you said, then Deebo, the offense gets the ball, Deebo, comes down and scores, and it was pretty much over. And like I said, for the 49ers to start off the way that they did, obviously making me sick to my stomach. The second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, they came out and scored 14 points each quarter. Like, you can't ask for a better ass whooping than that right there. Like every time the offense got the ball in their hands, they scored a touchdown. It was like, we're not settling for a field goal. We're not giving the ball back to them without putting points on the board. And they went down and scored a touchdown every single freaking time. And the players, they just, like, you could tell they just got up for this game. Like the way, like Juwan Jennings, like he's always a dog, but man, for him to just like be throwing players like they're little rag dolls, like nothing, that's stiff arm, to bully his way to the freaking end zone. Like, oh my gosh. Let's give out some flowers. We normally don't do this on this show, but since, like I told you before the show started, I haven't done my show with TL this week. So we haven't, paid no praises to our players. And I think there's a lot of players that deserve praise this week. So let's give out some flowers. I'm going to start with the guy that, hasn't got that much love for his 49ers career so far. But man, this game, and so far, I think since this season altogether, but since coming out of the bye, it just seems like he's healthy, he's hungry. And I talked about this on my show Tuesday night. Like, he doesn't have to worry about being the guy anymore. He's not the starter. Right. He's coming in, breaking the other Javon Hargrave. And, I just feel like it's better for him. He's not on the field so much. But Kinlaw had 2 sacks in this game. He was huge against the run. Like the whole defense was huge against the run for that team. Like, we know the Eagles team, they want to run. Their quarterback's good with that running. They're, like everything about that team, they want to be a run first team. And we shut down the run from the quarterback, from the running backs, from they couldn't get shit. Like I think they had 46 rushing yards, net rushing yards. Like that's just freaking, that's crazy, and Kinlaw played a huge part of that. And so shout out to him. Obviously, as soon as you say something good about Kinlaw, then people are like, oh, we're not going to sign him back. And, oh, what about the other years, blah, blah, blah. So just save it. We're talking about this game, right. And for this game, like he came, especially after the game that he had the last time we played Philly. Like if you can remember back to the playoff game,
he got pushed
Kinlaw
like a rag doll in that game.
Kinlaw was getting pushed around like a freaking rag doll in that game. So for him to come back here and, really like probably had the best game of the season, for him. So shout out to him. And obviously one of the sacks, Hurts had fell down, but the fact that the reason he fell was because he was backpedaling to get away from Kinlaw to begin with. And had Kinlaw not been there to at least put his hands on him to, dead the play, then we know his ass would have got up like this, like he's athletic as could be. So, that was huge. I was on a third down play, like huge play right there. So yeah, flowers to Kinlaw.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. Like I do my 49K Player of the Week show every Monday, right? And Kinlaw, I definitely made sure to nominate. He only played 22 snaps, which is weird because like that's about the average he's had all season. But for some reason in this game, it just felt like he was there more, even though he wasn't. But it's really just because of the impact that he had, both in the run game, as you mentioned, and also like keeping contained of Jalen Hurts. And he had 5 pressures of his own. That's a season high. 2 sacks were a season high. 3 stops were a season high. And he had 3 hurries as well. So it's just been nice to see Kinlaw improving each and every week. And I'm like, you're right. The fact that the 49ers haven't really had to rely on him in a large expanded role, I think has benefited him a lot.
Yep. Who you want to give some flowers to?
You actually mentioned him a little bit ago, and it's someone, the reason that I want to give this particular player flowers is because there's always so many great players on this team that I don't think certain players don't always get their flowers, right? So like for me, Juwan Jennings, one of those guys, I mean, understandably, he gets overshadowed by Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, right? Those are 2 great receivers for separate reasons of their own. But Juwan Jennings, he caught 3 passes, but he made them count. So they were all on third down, the passes that he caught, and they helped the 49ers move the chains, all of them.
Yep.
There was a 3rd and 5. It was an 18-yard catch. There was a 3rd and 9. It was an 8-yard catch, but it set up the 4th and 1, which Christian McCaffrey was able to convert. And then a 3rd and 5. That was the one where he pushed off Eli Ricks from him, and he ran in for the 18-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So he was a big contributor in a small way. You know what I mean? Like, it just he does the little things really well. I know, like Kyle Shanahan always praises his blocking ability too. Those are just also some of the things that we don't always see or notice, but things that are there, and he's always doing in the background. So definitely got to give him his props. And it feels like these last few weeks, he's kind of doing that thing, like that play where he did have the touchdown. He's kind of been doing that lately where like he'll turn, and like the defender just kind of falls off of him, like just the momentum, I guess. Like he's able to shed a tackle or whatnot. So I don't know. I like that new wrinkle in his game.
That shows you how strong he is, right? Like you have to have some upper body strength, to be able to turn like that and hang on to the ball, and just fling your arms back around, and the guys just to come flying off. Like, like we know he's strong, and like I said earlier, we know he always plays with that dog, like has that dog in him. But like I just feel like there's something lately, man. And was it? I feel like there was a catch that he didn't make in this game? Was that the first time Purdy threw to him? Because I feel
I
like he was pissed after that and kind of was like, no, like, and he just turned it up. And if I'm remembering correctly, but either way,
think it was early. Yeah, I think it was earlier in the game. It might have
yeah,
been. I'm trying to see now, but there was one incompletion, so he was
yeah. So I
targeted, I
feel
think,
like
like
that was,
4 times.
towards the earlier in the game. And, after that, he was just like, no, like that ain't going to happen again.
Yeah,
And he's always
exactly.
been so reliable. Like, obviously he gets the name Third and Jawan, all these, third down nicknames that he has for being that guy. And man, he just brings that, that you got to have a guy like that. I feel like, like obviously we know the Debo's Debo and he'll just truck down guys. And, Ayuk is so amazing at what he does, but Juwan's just like that. Like I feel like he's the Greenlaw of the offense. Like he's just like, they talked about Greenlaw being the enforcer this week. A lot of the players, spoke on that. And like I feel like that's Jawan Jennings of the offense. Like he could easily suit up for the defense and fit in perfectly over there, I feel like.
That's
um
interesting. I
yeah,
like that though.
another guy I'm gonna give some flowers to, and obviously there's like we could give flowers to Debo,
Right.
CMC, right? Like
That's
every
obvious.
single game, yeah, you could give them flowers. So there's a reason why obviously we're not saying those guys. But um and not just in this game, but prior to this guy going out on injury and since coming back from injury, he doesn't get a huge, role as a starter, but for special teams, like he has such a big impact. Like I feel like every single game you are constantly seeing, them calling his name because he's downing the ball at the 1 yard line, at the 2 yard line. And that's Womack. Like he is such
Mhm.
a freaking baller. Like I can't wait to finally see him play on defense, period. But um the impact that he makes on special teams is huge. Like, and like I said, every single game, I feel like, obviously not every single one, but let's say probably 75% of the games that he plays, I feel like he downs, a ball there. And so to get the other team, starting at their own 1, at their own 2, at their own 3, like is freaking huge. So shout out to Womack. He's obviously growing. Like I've been a fan of him since we drafted him. Um, like I said, hopefully he gets a chance sometime to actually play on the defense. But until then, just keep balling out on special teams, because the special teams has been such a freaking weakness for this team for so long, that we need these guys to step it up and, play their asses off no matter what their role is.
Yeah, I definitely like that you mentioned Womack. I feel like in addition to him, like there's a couple other guys who, just because it's special teams, they don't always get their flowers, but I've noticed they've done a good job. Like even in the 2 weeks that I think it's been 2 weeks that he's been available, the rookie Daryl Luter
Mm-hmm.
has made some nice plays on special teams too. I was actually bummed to hear that he's dealing with a hamstring injury. And I think they said that he might be out for some time. Um, so that's another guy, Ronnie Bell as well. I've noticed a number of nice plays from him. Maybe not, maybe not on Sunday because he had that return that
Oh,
he
I
couldn't
felt so
quite haul
bad for
in.
him.
I mean, at least it went out of bounds, right?
Because
It could have
before
been
the game,
could have been
once
worse.
they announced that Ray was going to be out, I'm like, oh, maybe 10, that means 10 will get some return duties. And people are like, oh, no, not the dreaded 10 and blah, 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 like all this shit. And then as soon as he gets
Yeah.
up there, I'm like, oh, God, they were
Yeah.
right.
But as far as like punt and kick coverage, he's
Yeah.
been awesome in that. And excited for those youngsters because some like those are your first opportunities
Mhm.
for a lot of them, right? So it's nice for them to just be able to show what they can do, and they've been relishing those opportunities for sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's where Huff, think his first year, that's where we got to know Huff from, was making
Yeah.
plays on special
Yeah,
teams,
you're right.
So it's like until you get your chance to, obviously, especially with the team like so deep, with so
Mhm.
many studs as the 49ers, like, these young guys, like it takes a while for you get to play here. And, you got to just take advantage of those opportunities. And when it's your time, when your number gets called, like now, with Jair Brown. Like he
Yeah.
stayed ready. He's making plays on special teams. You never know when somebody's going to go down. Unfortunately, that's the business. That's the game. And when they do, you got to be ready. So, like, I don't doubt that when we do need him, hopefully we don't need him for injuries or anything like that. But when we do need him, there's no doubt that he'll be ready.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. But the last player that I would kind of give some flowers to, and he does get his praise here and there, but maybe not as much in this particular game, but I still think he did a good job. Mooney Ward. I mean, he was targeted 8 times. He allowed just 4 catches, 75 yards in his coverage. 3 pass breakups, 2 of which could have at least was it 2 or 1? At least one of them was in the end zone. When
I
Hurts
feel
was
like he had
targeting AJ
two.
Brown. Yeah, it was 2. Okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I thought so. Um yeah, so that's impressive, right? One was the straight you know, pass breakup, and then the other one good coverage. The ball hit him in his back. So that's impressive. Like AJ Brown's a top 5 receiver in the
Mm-hmm.
league. This is Mooney Ward coming off a game where he strapped up DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown was going to be a bigger test than that, right? And you always know that Brown is going to get his because he's so good. But Mooney Ward kept the big plays from happening. And that's all you can ask for out of a corner, right? And that's kind of what the entire defense has been doing lately. They limit the big play. They're holding opponents in the red zone, bend don't break. So Mooney Ward has been a huge part of that, and he was a huge part of that on Sunday as well.
Yep, I agree. Um, I have, like in parentheses on mine, like Lenore / Ambry /
Yeah,
Seaward,
they all
because
did
I
great.
feel like, even though obviously there are 2 top wide receivers, finished, if you look at their stat line, it doesn't look that bad, right? Like one has over 100 yards, one was like, I think up there 90-ish. But if you actually watch the game, and it was huge.
Exactly.
The defense that, especially them, for like we talked about, obviously the how the first quarter was like terrible, but for the defense to hold them to 3 points and 3 points, like I can't say
That was
enough
huge.
about, that was fucking huge, because you could
Mm-hmm.
have possibly been down 14-0 at that point. And then you're having to dig yourself out of a freaking hole, and it's not as easy, but to only be down 6-0 after the way they started that game, and that's because of them, because of Lenore, Ambry, C Ward, for them, locking up their guys once they got down there in the red zone. Like it was freaking huge. And like you said, Travarius, for him to be shadowing, he pretty much shadowed AJ Brown in this game too. For him to shadow those 2 wide receivers in back-to-back weeks, and now, as we're going to get into it right now, it's going to be 3 weeks in a row. People, they don't want to give him his credit. They say he's too handsy, he's too this, that. I agree, he is a little handsy, and it does scare me at times that he's going to get called. But when you're a vet, you kind of learn the stuff that you can get away with, and they can't call you. They're not going to stop the game every single play to penalize you. Like if he's playing that way every single play, like people, criticize him for being too handsy, past the 5 yards. And it's like, well, they're not going to flag him every single play. Right. So he knows that he can get away with it, and how I feel, if you're going to walk the line, the same with Greenlaw, if you're going to toe that line,
Yeah.
toe it. Tell the motherfucker, get away with it, and if you do get flagged every once in a while, well, we got to live with it, right? Like the same with
Right.
Greenlaw. like I had put out a tweet like, fuck Greenlaw, just because I was so pissed, at the moment. But it's like, I'm not going to get mad at Greenlaw for making these questionable decisions because I want him to play like that. I want him to be that enforcer. We need that. We need to have somebody like that. So you can't tell him, oh, no, you can do it now, but you can't do it here, but you have to do it. No, you got to slow down here, because then he's going to start thinking, and being in his head. And we don't want him to play like that. You want him to play fast and free. And you just have to take the bad with the good. We know that there's a lot more good than there is the bad. So, I'll live with it. But let's get into this. Oh, real quick, I do want to say it's awesome coming out of this game for, the 49ers fans and everybody. All we could say, this last year was, well, it could have been different had we had a quarterback, right? Because what else can we do? That's just facts. You're not making an excuse. We don't know how it would have ended had our quarterback actually been healthy, right? Mm-hmm. So for Brock to come in to Philly, where he got his injury, season-ending injury, an injury that could have been career-ending, like quarterbacks don't get these injuries, right? Like this is a baseball injury. Nobody knew what to expect. Like so many questions. Is his arm strength going to be back? Is he going to ever play again? Is he going to, is he going to be in his head, timid, scared? All these shit going into this. And then to actually go back to the place where it happened, still cool, calm, collected, cool as a cucumber, Brock Purdy. Then to have a great game, 4 touchdowns, your team freaking kicked the shit out of them, all that. And then you come out of the game as FedEx Air Player of the Week against those same Philadelphia Eagles that people are telling you that you're going to lose against. They're the number 1 team in the NFL. They're going to hurt your arm again, all this shit. And he's a GOAT. He is a GOAT. Let me just tell you, like, man. So shout out to him. And then Debo as well got Player of the Week, obviously. Had he not, then, something's really screwed up in the system. But also coming out of this game, those that know, obviously, I'm in Vegas. So I pay close attention to all betting things. That's what I grew up on. Brock Purdy's leading the MVP race now. Mm-hmm. The same Brock Purdy that, he's only doing this because of his weapons and because of Kyle Shanahan and because he has an SF on his chest and because whatever else, the sky's blue, any other thing that you could possibly think of. That same Brock Purdy is leading the MVP race. So shout out to Brock Purdy.
Shout out him. Yeah, for sure. I didn't even think that this performance was his best. Like, not that it was bad. It's just like we've seen better performances from Brock, right? But at the same time, like he executed the game plan. Like once that first quarter ended, after the first 2 drives, like you can tell Kyle Shanahan made some adjustments and Brock Purdy executed those adjustments to a T, right? And getting the ball out quickly and to the playmakers. And I know everyone's like using it as an indictment on Brock Purdy. Oh, how is he going to be the MVP when he's checking down? Okay, first, tell me that you've only watched 1 game without telling me you've only watched 1 game. Casual. And 2, I think him having to do that was more an indictment on the 49ers pass blocking than it is on Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. And people who have watched more than 1 49ers game this season would know that. I mean, I know a lot of people are trolling, but there's another decent amount of people who are dead serious when they call or when they just say that Brock Purdy, doesn't deserve to be in the conversation. I can understand people saying or making an argument for another quarterback. Like, that's fine. Sure. Like it's great to have other options and, Dak's playing great. You can poke holes into that case as well as you can for Brock Purdy. And so I can understand him not being everyone's favorite for MVP, but he deserves to be in the conversation for the stuff that he is doing, for being first in a lot of quarterback categories. in the league, and he's been number one in a lot of those much of the season. Like, this isn't a brand new thing. And so, yeah, he deserves credit. Like, I want to see him get like national credit, because now it's just like starting to bug me. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? None of these people online have a vote for MVP. It doesn't matter. I don't need to argue with these people. We know what Brock Purdy is at the end of the day. Like, we're just happy that he's on our team, right? And 49ers are winning games and looking unstoppable with him at quarterback. And the rest, doesn't really matter too much. I think at the end of the day, they'll see.
Yeah.
They'll see it eventually.
Yeah, and I think if this was any other season, he would definitely win comeback player of the year as well. I think he would have that locked down, but since the whole Damar Hamlin situation, and since he was able to come back to football this season and actually, did play, has played snaps and whatnot.
Right.
I feel like he has that locked down, which, he probably should. But I feel like if it wasn't for that situation, for you would have to give it to Brock Purdy. Like I said, he's coming back from an injury that there was people saying, oh, he won't play till week 6. He won't play till, like we didn't even know what to expect, right? Like, there were so many questions, like, do we need to have, this quarterback and that quarterback to back him up and to start the season? And, like, his arm strength was a huge question. People saying, oh, he didn't have very much arm strength to begin with. So how's it going to be after the surgery? Is he going to be able to complete the passes? And he's come back, if not the same, better, like,
oh, definitely better.
Like, he didn't even have an off season to
even people forget
do
that.
anything.
People forget
like
that.
He literally came back a couple weeks before the season started. He could start throwing again, and hasn't skipped a beat. Like, it's pretty remarkable if you actually think about it. But, like, there's some, like you said, there's trolls. There's so many freaking people that, since he's wearing a 49ers uniform, they just don't want to give him any credit whatsoever. But it's like, if you actually sit down and think about, like, his journey, even from the start, like, from obviously being drafted the last, player in the draft, and just having to beat out the guy that you drafted to run your franchise, the number 3 overall pick, and Jimmy was still here, a guy that, the team loved so much, that had done so much for the 49ers franchise. And, like, that's so much to have to come into. And somehow you're the guy, right? Like, you're the real deal. And I think people better start listening when Shanahan says something. Everybody wanted to make fun of him, like, oh, you can't possibly know that Brock Purdy's the real deal after this short, this many games, and after all this, yada, yada, yada. And gotta say, think Shanahan's right. Think we got the real deal Brock Purdy on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that Kyle Shanahan trusts the hell out of him. That's something we haven't seen in a really long time. So
I love that. And that's I think that's such a huge part of it. Like, even the fact that, like, I thought when Mike McDaniel went to the Dolphins and what he did for Tua, cutting up all his plays and telling him, that he believes in him and that he's the best quarterback he's ever seen. And, giving him that confidence. Like, Jimmy was what he was, but, like, I felt like he never had that from Kyle. There was times, like, I was questioning, does Kyle even like this guy? Like, what is the relationship like off of the field? Because it seems like very weird, right? Like, you would never hear, like, Kyle get up there and praise Jimmy at a press conference, right? Like, you could tell that through Kyle's play calling, that he didn't trust Jimmy, and it's like night and day difference with Brock Purdy. Kyle, I've never heard him get up at the podium and talk good about any player as much as I've heard him, Brock Purdy, this season. And that was during the losses, during the wins, no matter what. He gets up there and sings praises to Brock Purdy. And, like, you could just tell, like, he trusts Brock. You could tell with his play calling, he trusts Brock, and Brock trusts him. Brock trusts that Shanahan is going to put him in the right position to succeed, and that with his play calling, that if Kyle says, go here with the ball, this guy's going to be open, Brock trusts that. And you can tell with their relationship. And like, I think, that a lot, I think that showed that a lot is, that is huge, like they're talking about this is the best offense that they've seen. And, from the 49ers so far, like our defensive players going up there and saying this shit. And it's like, Brock Purdy is a huge part of that. And all these little things go into that. It's like they want to talk about, oh, he's not the tallest. He's not the biggest. He don't have the strongest arm. He's don't have the biggest muscles. He's short. He's, white. He's this. He's whatever you want to think of. And yet he's fucking doing it. He's killing it. And so, yeah, shout out to Brock Purdy. Let's get into this Seahawks game. Seahawks again. Prior to the season, I did have a splitting with the Seahawks just because like I think it's hard to with division games to just say, oh, they're going to go in and sweep the division. Like I think that's, that could possibly very well happen this season. But to just say that at the beginning of the season is pretty crazy. Like, I think it's fair to say like you're going to split division games because even if one of them's a shitty team, like we've seen Arizona without a quarterback, without a running back, the shitty as could be, beat the 49ers team that was, going to the playoffs. So it's like shit like that happens, especially with division rival division teams. So I did have a splitting with them. However, I had us losing the game in Seattle. Now, a lot has changed since then. Seattle's not the team now that I thought they were going to be before the season. Injuries. Neither of Seattle's running backs have practiced. So they could be without them. And we saw what happened just 2 weeks ago, right? Like, I don't know. So I'm still kind of, it's Seattle. Like Seattle, when I think about them, still just like gives me like a little bit of nightmares kind of because just such bad stuff has happened with them. And even though it's like more, I think a Russell Wilson thing, not necessarily a Seattle thing. And yeah, we beat them the last 4, whatever. I think 4, I don't know, probably more, who knows. But still it's a division game and it's Seattle. So I'm kind of here with it. How you feeling going into this game? Where's your confidence level? How you feeling about it? Because we do know these teams so well, that you never know. And then you got that gum chewing prick over there.
Well, the 49ers did sweep the NFC West last season, and I think they're well on their way to doing it again. I understand that the Seahawks, we kind of see them as this like pesky like team that just never seems to go away kind of thing. But I also feel like the 49ers have become such a good team that, and at the same time, like the Seahawks, for whatever reason, like took a step back this year. Geno Smith took a step back this year. I think with those two things combined, it's hard to say anything other than the 49ers should be favorites this weekend, right? And I know as far as betting goes, they certainly are. But, like you said, you can never be too sure. So the 49ers have to go in with that mentality as well. They can't go in there feeling too good about themselves. Oh, we beat them by this much just 2 weeks ago. Oh, we just beat the Eagles by this much. It's a new week. And, I do think it benefits the 49ers that it was just 2 weeks ago that they both played, because I'm not sure how many adjustments or differences are going to be on the Seattle team since they played last. But, I think that if the 49ers play their game and they're not like distracted or anything, they should win. And the 49ers have a great track record in the fall and in December, as we know. So I'm expecting a win from the 49ers. I think you'll see a better effort probably from Seattle, but ultimately I just don't simply think they have what it takes to play the 49ers at their level.
Yeah. I think you're going to see desperation, from
Mhm.
the Seattle Seahawks. Like they're coming down to
They are
where like
desperate.
you can't lose like pretty much any more games if you're planning on making it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, desperate times, their players going to be out there doing what they can. But like I said, as of yesterday, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet had not practiced. Now, before the show, as I was doing my notes, the practice report hadn't come out for today yet. Gino also talked this morning, and he had said that his elbow and tricep injury is not 100% yet, but it's getting better each day, each week, whatever. So he's still not 100%, which, most NFL players aren't at this point. But for a quarterback, especially when that's in your elbow and whatnot, is something. But on our side, something huge is Armstead. Now,
Mhm.
Kyle said he hadn't yet ruled him out for this week, but he said it's very unlikely that he plays, that he might be out a week or two. And then Kyle was asked, so does that mean it's not a long-term injury? Like it shouldn't sideline him this rest of the season or whatnot. And Kyle didn't seem too sure about it. Like he didn't say no, like how Kyle is with injuries. Like he's so weird about saying stuff. But like he didn't sound too sure. So Armstead went into this Eagles game with one injury and came out with two injuries. So I think it's better that obviously he doesn't push himself and try to play through anything this week. But with him being out, we talked about Kinlaw, obviously, having a good game and on the rise. Also, we have Kalia Davis back. And he was huge, I think, against the run in this Eagles game. And, that was just his first game, right? Back first. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that was
Yeah,
his first game
that
back,
was his
so
NFL debut. Yeah.
yeah, so you can expect, with playing time and getting games under his belt, he's just going to get better too. And that's somebody that should be huge for the run game. Like I'm expecting that
Mhm.
he's a big
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah, he is.
like when I forget, like during the Eagles game, like there was a play that he made and he had got a sack in that game too. But I wasn't even thinking like that he was in the game, that he was even playing this game, right? And I see him like do something, and just by the looks, like I'm like, who the hell is that? And I'm like looking, and I'm like, man, he's a big boy. Like, who the hell? Like, I'm like, did we bring somebody up from the practice squad? Like, what's going on? Who is this guy? And it ended up being him. I'm like, oh shit, Kalia Davis is back. Let's go. Because I've been waiting
Yeah.
since we drafted him. Like,
Yeah, me too.
so, and I feel like he would have gone and people have said this so much, that he would have gone so much higher in the draft had he been obviously healthy, right? And so the
Mhm.
49ers kind of got a steal on him because they had to wait a year, and we thought it was only going to be a year, but it's been like a year and a half, a year and a half plus for him to come back. But man, I hope it really pays off because that's a big boy. But who are you looking to fill in for Eric and kind of take over that role? Because it's not just the run. It's not, like he's such a big part all the way around on that defensive line. And then kind of just like talk about some matchups that you're thinking, maybe they're going to switch shit up. Seattle, the way that they guard the 49ers, Blitz Boy, who knows? I don't think he can be guarding Kittle because he just gets burnt. So, like, what kind of matchups are you looking to favor the 49ers in this game?
Yeah, like going back to Eric Armstead, I think it is a pretty big loss for the defensive line. Like the last time that 2 weeks ago when they played
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, he had 3 pressures, 2 sacks in a hurry. He's just been on a tear, since the
Mm-hmm.
week. So, and you can't forget about how much he helps other guys, get their sacks and their pressures too, right? So I think he's going to be missed. I think we're going to see a lot of Kevin Givens in his place. Maybe they look to give Javon Kinlaw just a little more snaps, while Eric Armstead is out, and have him play at the 3 tech. But, like you said, Kalia Davis as well. He's definitely an option too, to get more opportunities, to get more snaps. So I think like more than likely, we'll see Kevin Givens and Kalia Davis kind of hold down the fort. And I'm excited to see Kalia Davis and what he can do. Now, remember, a lot of people like coming out of the draft were saying he has some DJ Jones-esque to his game. So he kind of has that same like similar build too. So definitely could be a factor. But yeah, excited to see how he looks out there in his second game. And then just going back to like some of the matchups. I mean, the 49ers have the advantage, the matchup advantage on offense. You know, I think if they get the run game going, which shouldn't be a problem, it's hard to stop the 49ers, right? And I think they're going to be able to run that like all day long. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be a big one. I think the defensive line should still be able to get to Geno Smith, even with Eric Armstead out, just because the Seahawks offensive line is pretty bad. And if the secondary is able to cover like they've been these last 2 weeks, Geno Smith's going to have a hard time finding anybody open. So I think it should be all of it should be a favorable matchup kind of for the 49ers. I will say this. So like after when these two teams played 2 weeks ago, I said, yeah, the 49ers defensive line over the Seahawks offensive line, that was a mismatch. And then the 49ers defensive line going up against the Seahawks run game, that was when Kenneth Walker was expected to be out. Now you add on the fact that Zach Charbonnet might not even play. And if he does play, he might not even be at 100% either. So like, I think it's an even bigger mismatch this time around, potentially for them. And of course, like the 49ers playmakers against the Seahawks linebackers, that's really where they struggle. And so that's, it's funny because the 49ers have faced like 2 teams in a row now that have struggled with linebackers. So we know that Kyle Shanahan could expose that weakness fairly easily.
Speaking of linebackers, I could have sworn before the Eagles game, the linebacker for the Eagles that was supposed to fill in had like put this dog thing like over his beware of dog over his locker.
Yeah, I think he's a rookie. He's a rookie. I don't think he was ever in line to start, even though some people thought he would. I think it was always going to be Christian Ellis or Elise, whatever. But it was still
and then
funny.
He got released after the game.
Yeah, he got released. I was like, they're in shambles. They're in shambles over there in Philadelphia. But that's what I'm saying. It's Kyle Shanahan. Like it doesn't matter kind of like who's there if we know that linebacker is your weakness. If the middle of the field is your weakness, we have ways to expose that.
Yep. I just want to say real quick, shout out to the chat. I see it's popping. You guys got the chat going. We appreciate you guys so much. I see all the love that you guys showed us from, saying that this show should have more love, that, all these different things. I'm seeing that we see. Thank you guys so much. Please, 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 while you guys are here, if you're on my channel, please make sure that you are also subscribed to Steph on her channel, Steph 49K, and vice versa. Please make sure you're subscribed to both channels. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's do some score predictions.
Okay. I was like, man, I haven't thought about this yet. Yeah, I did. I did one earlier today. Okay,
score predictions.
Yeah, drop them in the chat. Score predictions. Shout out Randy. He literally dropped like
I see Randy,
a comment from both of our channels back to back. That's dedication right there. Really appreciate you, Randy. So my score prediction, I think it's pretty fair and almost like needed to assume that the 49ers are going to score over 30, right? So I'm going to give them 34 and I'm going to give the Seahawks 19. And that is what they're by the way. Oh, right. Proud. I forgot. What was our prediction last week then?
Let me see. All right. Last week you had 34-27. I had 34-20.
You were close on the 20. Nice.
Yep. This
right.
week, I'm going 35-10. Bunch of scrubs. They ain't going to be able to score shit. They're lucky I'm not saying 35-0. Ho-ass birds.
Oh my gosh.
I want, this is what I want. I want their gum chewing old ass coach to be so mad that he's constantly firing that gum everywhere all game long, taking that gum out and chucking it all over the place. That's what I want.
I can't believe like that was the first time I ever saw him like dispose of the gum. Like every time they pan to him on the sideline, he's chewing the gum, but I've never actually seen him like get rid. I like in my imagination, it was the same piece of gum the entire game, but like, why would he do that? That's disgusting. I mean, it's still kind of disgusting, but
yeah,
you know,
throwing it.
I mean, to throw it, that's disgusting. Yeah.
On Jesse's show last night, he had he did it with a Seahawks content creator, and the content creator was saying that they're like always hoping or waiting for, one of the Seahawks players to come walking in and the gum be like stuck on their helmet, or they're like, so because it's so random, you never know like where that gum's gonna go. Right. He doesn't care where, he chucks it into the stands, he chucks it at the players, onto the grass, like just randomly takes it out when he's mad and just chucks it somewhere. So you could be a fan, get that shit stuck in your hair. You never know. Like, better watch out.
It's crazy.
It's kind of fucking disgusting. Because if that gum comes hitting me, they're gonna need Dumb Don down there fucking protecting his ass. Because hell no, I'd be pissed.
I'm gonna find out real quick.
Before we get out of here, let me see what the chat says about their score predictions. We have 24-22. Courtney says 30-17. Got Don with 34-17. Quincy 31-9. I like it. Dina, she lives in Philly. She says city of Philly was so quiet these past few days. I love it. Dina says 30-14. Got 36-10. James says 35-13. Got 35-17. Ryan, how many scores are you gonna give? 35-13.
He's covering all of his bases.
Look at
not
this
leaving
one.
anything to chance.
55-21. Woo!
Wow, you crazy, friend.
That would be awesome. I would love that shit.
We would take it. All right.
That would be a great 3-week bird freaking shooting there. All right. Dina says, I think he swallows the damn gum. I wouldn't be surprised. He gets so mad. Steph, tell the people what you got going on this week.
All right. As always, on Fridays, I have my preview show with Lori Fitzpatrick. We'll be talking about this matchup again. I assume that most of the cautious and favorable matchups that we'll be talking about are probably about the same ones that we talked about 2 weeks ago, which will be weird. But if you would like to hear me say about the same things over again, please join me on Friday evening, 5:30 Pacific. And Saturday, no show. Saturday, I'm flying out to the Bay Area. I'm going to be out there to watch the game live. So the 49ers, better take care of the birds like I'm expecting them to. And then, I'll probably do a live post game at some point shortly after.
Awesome. Well, you have a safe flight, a safe trip. I definitely hope, like Randy says, that you can have some Seahawks stew while you're there. Unlike usual, this isn't my last show of the week. Me and TL haven't done our show yet, so we will be doing it Saturday at 3 Pacific time, 6 Eastern. Make sure you come tune in. That's our show where we do our giveaways and all that fun stuff. So come check it out. And again, chat, we appreciate you guys so much for showing up, for showing out, showing us love. You guys are greatly appreciated. We couldn't be doing this without you guys, or else we'd just be here talking to the two of us like boring as shit. So we appreciate you guys. Steph, as always, I appreciate you. Much love to you. like I said, have a safe trip. And we'll be back at this next week, same time, same place. We're out of here, faithful.
Get it. Peace.